Ladies and gentlemen, when the proposition today concedes that global warming is a huge thing that affects millions of people and that Obama has done amazing things to fix it, then just says, well, sorry, it's long-term, we don't have to care about this issue. We tell you that long-term goals are important too, ladies and gentlemen. And based on this simple concession, we tell you that we won this debate simply by a factor of weighing up two sides and which side did a better thing and which side was able to show you more good than harm. And we tell you that we also just won every single issue of intervention and global policy and whether or not they should have done that. So what did this debate eventually come down to? It came down to two questions. One, did Obama do the necessary actions that he needed to, which were intervening and diplomacy and that sort of thing? But also, secondly, was he able to look out for other important objectives that also had huge bearing on the world that aren't just wars and stuff that the opposition can buy easy rhetoric off of, right? So firstly, on this idea of intervention and diplomacy, they gave you the example of Iraq and ISIS perpetually throughout this debate, but never wanted to deal with any of the rebuttal that we gave you, right? We told you that their side actually has to contend with a more empowered ISIS, because on their side, when you have an intervention in the kind that they wanted to, for example, staying in Iraq, you get all the harms of perception, but none of the benefits of actually being there, because you can never be there in the first place. We'll tell you that they're surface level argumentation about some people opposing and being for and against this idea within America doesn't deal with the fact that Americans vote overwhelmingly have a terrible view of the Iraq War, and it's one of the primary reasons why they hate George Bush in general, right? So we tell you on their side, they're unable to get any real benefits when it comes to Iraq and those sorts of examples where intervention, where they say intervention should have been a thing, but get all of the harms, which means they have to contend with a worse ISIS. This means you can disregard all of the rhetoric that they give you about ISIS making people feel unsafe and being this global terrible threat, because they have to show you, and they didn't show you, why it would become less bad had Obama done something else, which is the burden that they have in this debate. But secondly, ladies and gentlemen, when it came to diplomacy, right, because they didn't want to engage with the actual factors that we gave you about why the Iran deal and diplomacy in Syria were really, really good, right? Which was the idea that we form institutions that we can look to in the future, but also that we did something that was in the interest of the entire community and not just in the interest of right-wing politicians in specific countries, right? We told you that they weren't able to actually deal with this. And when the best response I can give you to the Iran deal, which created a lasting precedent, but also managed to de-escalate and destroy nukes in Iran for the next 10 years, is that, well, Netanyahu went before Congress and didn't publicly want it. We tell you they failed to deal with all the analysis on our side, failed to deal with all the benefits on our side, and failed to engage in this debate realistically. But finally, when they tell you about disarmament, they tell you we shouldn't disarm in the age of ISIS. We think it's the best possible reason to disarm and to take away nuclear weapons when you have ISIS in many countries that can use these nuclear weapons and are likely to do that on our side. We tell you, based on all the metrics that they gave us, all the grounds that they wanted to win this debate on, we won comprehensively. But let's look at the other grounds that we brought to you in this debate that they wholly didn't want to clash on because they couldn't get rhetoric off of it, right? We told you about global warming, we told you about LGBTQ rights. We told you about the pivot to Asia and about stopping that sort of perception of a China that's too powerful and being able to limit them, right? We told you that on our side, we get a massive benefit by getting China and India to the table on global warming. We gave you loads and loads of reasons in my second speech, 3 minutes of them, about how on our side, we get a much, much better ability to deal with these problems in the future and about why these problems were actually so bad, right? They can't tell you that these are weird, random, disparate harms when we gave you 3 of them in our speech about maritime ecosystems, about destroying, flooding cities and destroying storms and that sort of thing. They can't push these under the rug and tell you they occur 50 years in the future when they're occurring now. Ladies and gentlemen, the opposition couldn't engage in the comparative in this debate. The only example that they had in the end of the debate was about Iraq and ISIS, and we comprehensively won on that example. Because they couldn't weigh up in this debate, they lost it. We beg you to vote.